General Hospital spoilers teasing that there are not two but three people Molly Lansing Davis will never forgive, and the fallout promises to be earth-shattering. From the moment Molly Lansing Davis stumbled across those damning documents, her world unraveled. She had always trusted her mother, Alexis Davis, implicitly. Their bond, welded by late-night confidences, whispered secrets against the hush of dawn, and a shared vulnerability born from years of navigating Port Charles's darkest undercurrents, seemed ironclad. Yet here, in her hands, lay the cold, clinical pages authorizing the involuntary commitment of her half-sister, Kristina Corinthos Davis, to a psychiatric institution. As the rain pattered mournfully against her bedroom window, Molly felt the first fissures of betrayal crack through her composure. How could Alexis, the fierce matriarch who had once rescued her from despair, contemplate consigning Kristina to an asylum? Molly's initial shock morphed into numb disbelief as she rifled through the files. The legalese, the notarized signatures, it was all genuine. But the deeper Molly read, the more questions multiplied. Why now? Why Kristina? Hadn't Alexis spent years defending her daughter against every slander and threat? Memories flooded back, Kristina's spirited laughter echoing through the living room, her dramatic outbursts in art class, the tears on Alexis's cheeks when Kristina confessed to her own fragile breakdowns. To this day, Alexis had portrayed herself as Kristina's unwavering protector. And yet here was evidence of a contingency plan so severe it made Molly's blood run cold. Determined to confront her mother, Molly stormed downstairs. The house was silent, antiseptic white walls reflecting the midday glare. She found Alexis in her study, poised behind a mahogany desk, delicately balancing a pen above a stack of official forms. The sight was surreal, Alexis so composed, so meticulous. Almost as if she'd been anticipating Molly's arrival. The moment froze, Molly's trembling hand clutching the papers, Alexis's calm expression flickering with something unreadable. "Mom," Molly choked out, voice tight with betrayal. "What is this?" Alexis closed the folder with a measured click. "Molly, I can explain," she began, voice low and controlled. But Molly couldn't hear her. Her vision tunneled, past the familiar mahogany desk, past the gold-framed diplomas on the wall, to the harsh reality that her mother had authorized Kristina's commitment. "Explain?" Molly's incredulity was raw. "You want to lock my sister up, my sister, because... what? You think she belongs in a ward?" Alexis hesitated, choosing her words with surgical precision. "It wasn't about what I think. It was about what might happen. I drafted these papers as a last resort, to protect Kristina from herself." The explanation fell flat. Molly's mind raced. Protect Kristina? She remembered the incident that had everyone in Port Charles whispering Kristina's involvement in Rick Lansing's car crash. She remembered Rick's pallid face, the hospital's sterility, the hushed threats by Ava Jerome. But Alexis had never told her the full story. Had it been so dire that incarceration seemed preferable? Before Molly could press further, Alexis's phone buzzed with a message that sent a shiver through her. Alexis's eyes darted to the screen, her lips tightening. The message was from Ava Jerome. "We have the papers. You know the deal." Alexis swallowed hard, and in that instant, Molly understood a new layer of deception. Her mother had been blackmailed, and the ransom was Kristina's liberty. The revelation struck Molly like a blow. Ava Jerome, the femme fatale with a penchant for manipulation, had ensnared her mother in a web of coercion. And Rick Lansing, her own father, had colluded with Ava, leveraging Alexis's maternal instinct against her. The implications were staggering. The documents hadn't been drafted out of maternal ruthlessness, but at the behest of sinister forces seeking to control Alexis through fear for Kristina's future. No wonder Alexis kept them as a backup. She needed that leverage to stave off Ava and Rick's threats, uncertain if their demands would ever cease. Rage blossomed in Molly's chest. Betrayal by Alexis and Rick was one thing, But to weaponize Kristina's fragile mental state for blackmail crossed every line. Molly's vision blurred with tears as she confronted her mother. How could you let them use you? How could you let Kristina become their pawns? Alexis's hands trembled. Molly, you don't understand. If Kristina went down that path, if the truth of the accident surfaced, the law would come for her. Jail, felony charges, worst case, no one would look after her. I had to have a plan. Molly shook her head, anguish and fury warring in her expression. By betraying her? By not destroying those papers? You chose to hide her behind locked doors rather than face the consequences. Torn between defending her daughter and placating the blackmailers, Alexis's words dissolved into sobs. I thought I was protecting her. That admission only fueled Molly's wrath. She withdrew the files once more, her knuckles white. Protecting? All you did was protect yourself. Before Alexis could respond, Molly realized she needed Kristina's side of the story. She snatched her phone and texted her half-sister, urging an immediate meeting at the Courtemain Mansion's conservatory, a place of relative privacy, bathed in natural light and shielded from prying eyes. Within minutes, Kristina arrived, wild-haired, tense, her emerald green eyes alight with indignation at her mother's secrecy. Upon seeing the papers, Kristina's lips parted in disbelief. Mom, what is this? When did you draft these? She turned to Alexis, voice a mix of hurt and rage. You were ready to put me away, for good? Why didn't you tell me? Alexis's composure fractured. Kristina, I'm sorry. But Kristina cut her off. Sorry doesn't cut it. You kept this from me for months. The accusation stung Alexis, but Kristina's hurt was undeniable. She had spent her life feeling half-owned by Alexis's overprotectiveness, and now that protectiveness had morphed into betrayal. Molly watched the confrontation in stunned silence. She saw the flicker of remorse in Alexis's eyes and the raw betrayal etched across Kristina's face. In that charged moment, the distance between mother and daughters yawned wide, a chasm built on fear and silent suffering. The next day dawned with an oppressive stillness. Alexis convened a sit-down in the living room, determined to stitch the frayed edges of her family back together. She inhaled deeply, steeling herself to reveal truths that might shatter them all. Kristina, she began, voice cracking, I know you're angry. I know you feel betrayed. But you need to understand why I did this. Kristina's arms were crossed, eyes narrowed. Molly sat beside her, arms hugging her knees, silent, resentful. The trio formed a tense tableau, the glow of morning light revealing the stark contrast between Alexis's pleading vulnerability and her daughter's wounded defensiveness. Alexis took a shaky breath. Kristina, remember the night of the accident with Rick? I never told you everything because I wanted to protect you. You panicked, you drove off. In your mind, you were acting in self-defense. But Rick was critically injured. The hospital reports, the police statements, they all indicated gross negligence. The DA was considering charges. If the truth came out, they'd lock you up. I couldn't let that happen. Kristina's jaw clenched. I know what happened. I've lived with it every day. But you drafting papers without telling me? Without even giving me a chance to explain. Alexis's throat tightened. I was under Ava's thumb. She found out that Rick was helping her blackmail me over details of your crush. She threatened to expose you if I didn't sign. I needed to keep the papers as leverage, so she'd have nothing more to threaten me with. Molly's stomach churned as she listened to her mother's confession. She realized she'd been blindsided not only by Alexis's omission, but by the terrible lengths Ava Jerome and Rick Lansing would go to manipulate them. Rick, her own father, had betrayed his daughter and his wife, partnering with Ava to extort Alexis. The gravity of that realization sent a fresh surge of anger through Molly. She had adored Rick's fatherly strength, his protective instincts. Here he was, colluding in their torment. Before Kristina could reply, Alexis's phone lit up again. The message was brief. Time's almost up. Fear flickered across Alexis's face. The blackmail was intensifying. Molly watched the interplay of desperation and resolve ripple through her mother's features. Suddenly, the domestic scene felt like a battleground, every word a potential misstep that could unravel this fragile truce. Kristina, sensing the shift, softened. Mom, I get it. You were trying to save me. It's just. Why didn't you come to me? Why didn't you trust me enough to face this head-on? Alexis's eyes glistened. I thought if I could keep it quiet, if I could control it, maybe you'd never have to suffer. I didn't want you to go through what I did, scrutiny, judgment, a trial hanging over your head. Molly interjected, voice trembling with ire. But you did it anyway. You traded Kristina's freedom for your own peace of mind. Her words were a dagger aimed at Alexis's heart. Alexis looked helplessly between her daughters. I made the wrong choice. A tense silence enveloped them, broken only by the ticking of the grandfather clock. Then, without warning, Molly bolted from the couch. She stalked to the door, flung it open, and marched toward Rick's study. Alexis and Kristina exchanged alarmed glances before trailing after her. Rick Lansing sat behind his desk, reviewing medical charts, a stark reminder of his own injuries from the crash. The sight of his daughter, fire in her eyes, sent a pang through him. Molly? What are you? Molly slammed the damning papers onto his mahogany desk. Explain. To me. Right now. Her voice echoed in the silence. Rick's face blanched. He swallowed, then reached for the papers, fingers shaking. Molly, listen. Don't listen. I want to know why you helped Ava blackmail my mother. Why you let my sister's life hang in the balance for your own revenge. Her words hammered against his chest. Rick's shoulders sagged. I was hurt, Molly. I thought Alexis never understood me, never saw me. Ava offered me a chance to get back at her, to make her pay for everything she's put me through. His confession was raw, revealing a bitterness that had festered beneath the surface of their marriage. I didn't think about Kristina. Or you. Molly recoiled as if struck. You didn't think about us? You used our family like pawns in your petty vendetta. He closed his eyes, shame and regret warring in his expression. I made a terrible mistake. 3 people, my mother, my father, and my sister, have betrayed me, Molly said, voice breaking. And I will never forgive you. She turned on her heel and fled the room, tears streaming down her face. Alexis and Rick watched her go, dread pooling in their stomachs. Kristina moved to follow her, but Alexis placed a gentle hand on her arm. She needs time. In the days that followed, Molly's absence cast a long shadow over their home. She cut off communication, leaving no forwarding address, no indication of where she might be. Alexis and Rick, a fractured couple once again, were forced to reckon with the wreckage of their actions, the broken trust, the raw wounds, and the terrifying knowledge that their daughter felt so betrayed she would vanish rather than face them. Back in Port Charles, whispers swirled. Where was Molly Lansing Davis? Had she run away? Was she in danger? Port Charles, a town built on secrets and half-truths, now held its breath as one of its most beloved daughters disappeared into the unknown. Meanwhile, Kristina grappled with her own guilt. Though it was Alexis and Rick who had betrayed her trust, Kristina felt responsible for the chain reaction. Had she never crashed into Rick, never spiraled into fear, would any of this have happened? The weight of that question settled on her shoulders like a boulder, pressing her into silence. She sought solace in the one place she felt safe. The hospital chapel, where she prayed for Molly's well-being and for a chance to mend the fractures in her family. Alexis and Rick, each in their own way, embarked on a desperate campaign to find Molly. Alexis scoured the phone records of her daughter's closest friends. Rick reached out to contacts in neighboring towns where Molly might have fled. Every lead ended in heartbreak, every phone call a reminder of their failure. Their once unshakable confidence in controlling outcomes had evaporated. They were now at the mercy of their daughter's wrath and her need to process the betrayal. As the sun set each evening, Alexis sat by the living room window, fingers wrapped around a cold mug of coffee, replaying the moments she might have chosen differently. Rick wandered the halls, pausing at Molly's bedroom door as if expecting her to burst back in, furious words on her tongue, tears soon to follow. But the door remained closed, a silent testament to the chasm between them. In the community, Molly's disappearance became a cautionary tale whispered among the faithful at St. Teresa's, discussed by nurses in hushed tones down sterile corridors, and posted in anxious messages on neighborhood bulletin boards. The police filed a missing persons report. The local press ran sympathetic profiles of Molly, her volunteer work, her kindness to those in need, her fierce loyalty to family. The portrait of Molly Lansing Davis, the once innocent heroine, had been complicated by the undercurrents of betrayal and scandal. Yet through it all, a single question lingered: would Molly ever return? Or had the wounds inflicted by Alexis, Kristina, and Rick proven too deep to heal? Within the shadowed walls of Drake's Harbor, Ava Jerome watched with quiet satisfaction, even as her alliance with Rick began to fray under the weight of unintended consequences. She had ignited a firestorm but now risked watching it consume them all. As Port Charles braced for the storm's next blow, one truth remained undeniable: family, once fractured by fear and manipulation, would never be the same. Molly Lansing Davis's disappearance was more than a dramatic exit. It was a symptom of wounds that ran deeper than any legal document or blackmail threat, a chasm carved by betrayal, trust broken in 3 directions, and the agonizing realization that love alone might not be enough to bring her home. And in that void, a new chapter of General Hospital's drama was set to unfold, one where forgiveness would be earned, secrets clawed into the light, and 3 hearts would have to learn the cost of redemption.